As you can see, we're slowly gaining on the decoration front. Maybe I'll have a chair at some point, who knows? Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Since it is finally May, I have decided that I am done with winter. Regardless of what the weather says outside, it's springtime. Wow, don't you just love the springtime? So, we're going to start diving into spring-themed projects. And I thought a good way to kick off this season was to make a couple berets. That one featured a simple beret tutorial and then how to make it look like an acorn cap and a pumpkin. And I'm going to kind of build off of that simple beret tutorial. We are going to be making a frog and a strawberry today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Alright, let's get started. For our supplies, we have some green felt, matching thread, some white felt sheets, black embroidery floss, and a little scrap of pink to make the cheeks. And of course matching thread for that one as well. We also have some stuffing for the eyes. For the strawberry we have pink felt, or red if you prefer, matching thread for that, green for the top of the strawberry, green thread for that, and once again black embroidery floss. This is the number of the floss if you would like the exact same kind. And then normal stuff like scissors, pins, and some hand needles, as well as a sewing machine. To start out, we're going to cut out the beret pattern that we made in that first beret video, which I will have linked in the cards, I guess, if I remember. And we are just cutting it out, leaving space for seam allowance all around it. And then we are doing the same thing with the brim. Then from the scraps, we're going to cut little half oval shapes to make up the eyes. And I'm just completely eyeballing it. Huh. Get it? No? Okay. So once we're all done, we should have 4 pieces for the eyes, 2 brim pieces, one for the lining and one for the visible one, and a top piece. To cut out the belly piece, I'm folding my top of the hat in half because I only want the belly to extend up that far, and then tracing the shape that I want onto the white felt. Once that's all done, I'm folding it in half to make sure it is symmetrical on both sides and cutting it out. And then for the blushies, I kind of just eyeballed a oval-ish shape and made sure it looked how I wanted, and then cut out a second one. For the whites of the eyes, I traced the entire eyeball piece and then drew how I wanted it to look. And there are all of our pieces. We just need the nostrils, the eyeballs, and a smile. For the eyeballs, I just whip stitched the white piece onto a single piece of the green felt. And then to figure out the shape that I wanted the black parts of the eye to be, I just did a few sketches and then decided on which I preferred. After drawing that on to the white felt with pencil, I just used simple satin stitches to put that on. And there it is. So for the eyes, I somehow lost this footage, but basically I just whip stitched around the edges to connect the front and the back pieces together, and then stuffed a little bit of polyfill in both of those to make them a little more three-dimensional and have a little more interest. For the belly, I did the exact same thing, just simple whip stitches all the way around it. Did end up adding a pin to make sure it stayed in place because this was a much larger piece of felt than the white of the eye. And this is how he's looking. For the cheek pieces, exact same thing. Whip stitched those on. Since it's felt, it doesn't fray at all, so I didn't feel the need to finish those edges. And then with a pen, I marked where I wanted the nostrils and the smile to be. For the nostrils, I did 2 little French knots, which you can see me doing here. You pull it up through your fabric, take the needle and wrap the end of the thread around a few times. I think I did 5. And then stick the needle right back down directly next to where it came up. And then you carefully pull that through and it leaves a nice little knot. For the smile, I was boring. I just did a simple back stitch. Okay, I just finished the smile and it looks like a little face, but he does have separate eyes. Oh, he's cute! I love him. I'm pretty proud of this. Alright, now we can attach the brim. So for the eyes, I positioned them where I wanted to, and then placed them in between the layer of the cap and the brim, making sure those were pinned in place. With the filling, the polyfill, this was kind of difficult because they were so three-dimensional, but if you're careful, it should be fine. And then I pinned around the rest of that normally. And I stitched this together with just a simple straight stitch. I used the edge of my machine foot as the seam allowance. Because I am dumb, there is a litany of missing clips, but basically I flipped the hat right side out and pinned the second brim piece around the head opening, right sides together, and now I am just sewing it. Once that was done, I clipped all the way around the curve to make sure it would turn in smoothly, which looked kind of funny. And then once that's done, I flipped up that lining and turned the raw edge inwards in order to hide all of those seam allowances to make it nice and pretty. And that got whip stitched down. For the strawberry, I needed a new pattern. I took a fourth of the original beret piece and traced that out onto a piece of paper. And then I extended the sides outwards so that they would have a little puffiness, which is very similar to what I did with my pumpkin, but with 4 pieces instead of 8. And then once I was cutting it out, I trimmed it to make sure it was symmetrical. Once that was done, we could get to cutting. And then I also cut an extra cap pattern so that it would be fully lined to get rid of all those extra raw edges that weren't present in the frock. I started by doing 2 of the sections together and then another 2, and then I connected both of those to make the full thing. This is kind of tricky and fiddly, but it worked out okay in the end, despite my seams not matching up super well. And then once that is done, we can cut out some leaves. I just freehanded this with a pen onto my felt. And then cut out 4 more of them. I also cut out a little rectangle to make the stem, and I'm just going to roll that up and whip stitch it closed. Then all of those got tacked on. At the top, I just did a few tacking stitches to make sure they would stay in place. And then after whip stitching the stem on, which was kind of a little bit fiddly, I did a few more tacking stitches at the bottom of the petals so that they kind of stood up in a slightly 3-dimensional way and also stayed out of the way of the seam allowance. For the seeds, I did a ton of French knots all over the strawberry. And then the brim got sewn on. The lining was sewn on just like a normal beret and then flipped inside out and inserted into the other beret so that it can be nicely finished off. Once that was sewn, I had left an opening and I struggled greatly to turn it right side out. And then finally that little opening can get whip stitched closed, and it's all done. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching this video. What I learned from it is I don't have nearly enough pink clothes. This is the only pink shirt that I own. Maybe some more projects will be pink coming up. And yeah, I really wish it was spring. It is not, but I'm still gonna dress like it is. If you would like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to see more berets. If you have any specific ideas or requests, please let me know and I will do my best to accommodate them in maybe a summer beret video. Maybe it'll become a seasonal thing, who knows. Thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day. Okay, bye! I don't have a blooper for this one, so should I just do like a little jig?